let me salute that Pulitzer Prize winner, Nicole Hannah-Jones. She turned the tables on establishment historians by writing in that now famous essay in August 2019 in the New York Times Magazine that a motive force for the revolt against British rule in 1776 was the desire to preserve forevermore the system of enslavement, which is why the Confederates in 1861 considered themselves to be walking in the footsteps of real estate speculator George Washington. This also helps to explain why Black people today are treated so atrociously, because unlike some, Black people then, and mostly now, did not engage in class collaboration. They did not side with their slave masters, their slaveholders, in a slaveholders revolt that led to the creation of a slaveholders republic. And when you fight a war and lose, as Black people did in 1776, you can expect to be pulverized and penalized forevermore until you can turn the tables, which we began to do with the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804. Juneteenth also needs to be seen in the context of a larger scheme by slaveholders in Texas. You all know, I'm sure, that we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, which marks a time when Mexicans rose up against the French puppet ruler, speaking of Maximilian. Recall as well that Texas had seceded from Mexico in 1836 and became an independent republic, not least because Mexico had moved towards abolition of slavery in the 1820s under a president of indigenous and African descent, speaking of Vicente Guerrero. So the idea for the enslavers in 1865 was to try to return to Mexico under French rule and extend the lease on life of slavery. This plot, this scheme may have succeeded, but for an uprising by the Mexican people that drove Maximilian out of office, leading to his execution, that was joined by Black soldiers, including an early Black historian, George Washington Williams. You may want to consult the biography of him by the late historian John Hope Franklin. And it presents a remarkable story of Black-brown unity against white supremacy that I think we can learn from.
And so take it forward from there and explain first what exactly Abraham Lincoln signed with the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, why it took 2 years for enslaved people in Texas to learn of this. But even with this Emancipation Proclamation, it did not free enslaved people in places like Kentucky, in places like Delaware and Maryland.
You have to see the Emancipation Proclamation as a war-fighting measure. Its remit did not necessarily extend to slaveholders who remained true to the Lincoln government. Its remit did extend to states like Texas, where the United States did not enjoy meaningful sovereignty. Then the larger point is that there's evidence to suggest that even after June 19th, 1865, unpaid labor of Africans continued at least for months, perhaps longer. We still need research on that. And in any case, a kind of neo-slavery erupted, speaking of the convict lease system, whereby Black men in particular were arrested on a flimsy pretext and then were leased out en masse to plantations where they formerly had been enslaved laborers. So this whole story of Juneteenth is much more complicated and much more complex than is traditionally presented. But having said that, once again, I salute those who are pushing for a federal holiday with regard to Juneteenth, because it provides an opportunity to have a thorough remembrance of this horrific system that was slavery.